Bogaday.
Здравейте!
And welcome back to our little Bulgarian adventure.
Well, we're coming towards the end of June and we're having the weather you would expect.
Yes, it's really hot still, really
Hot, sunny, lovely.
But no rain. We could do with a little bit of rain.
Yes, please.
Just for the garden.
And maybe a cold day or two, just for a bit of variety. But
I don't think we're getting that for a few months.
doesn't look like it, does it? But yes, so we've had quite an eventful week this week. Quite a busy week, in fact.
Yeah, we started this week with visitors.
We did.
Yes, Paul and Jasmine came to visit.
Yep, spent the afternoon, had a tour of the estate. That's what I'm calling it. And yes, we had a lovely afternoon. Thank you for coming. Yeah. And it's lovely to meet you. Well, meet you again.
Max says thank you very much for the cakes.
Oh yes.
He did eventually emerge from his room.
Yes, apparently something big was happening on the servers in Australia or something. He had to be up all night the night before, bless him.
Which is why you never got to see him that day. But he was here.
Yeah. You could probably hear us snoring. Yeah, so that was Sunday.
Yes, and we did really enjoy your beers as well.
Oh yes.
But that was after your concreting.
Yes, Monday morning we decided to do to break the back of the pad for the pool. Was it hard work? Oh yes.
Really hard work.
Yeah. In fact, this is what we've done this week. So I'm continuing with the swimming pool concrete pad. Now I had the problem last week where I wasn't sure exactly how I was making my formers. Now what I've done so far, and you can probably see at the edge there, is I've got some of the rebar mesh which I've cut into strips with long spiky bits on the bottom and as smooth along the top as I can get it. And what I'm doing is I'm knocking those in, trying to level it up, attaching it to the rebar stakes so that I've got a continuous circle of rebar with a fairly flat, it's not going to be perfectly flat, but a fairly flat level all the way around so that I can get my level when I lay the concrete. That's stage one of making the former. It's got a lot more complicated than I was hoping it would be, but once it's done, it's done. So I'll carry on cutting these, putting them in until we've got the circle made, then we can move on to the next stage. So we're now at the stage where we have the rebar in. It's held to the stakes of rebar that are banged into the ground. It's pretty rigid, goes all the way around the circle to the height we need. It's not absolutely perfect, but it's certainly good enough. This is where now we need to find a way of filling these gaps so that the concrete, when we pour it, doesn't come through. Now we're planning on lining plastic on the inside and mud brick on the outside, but that doesn't help us with these top areas. This is where we veer away from convention and try something completely different, which may or may not work. I'll show you what we're going to do. Now the area we need to concentrate on is this area at the front. This bit here is a bit of reinforcing rebar banged into the ground as well, just helps solidify things at the back. But it's this very top layer. Now it's unconventional, but we're going to basically use tape both sides sticking to itself and around the uprights. Will this work? Will this be strong enough? I don't really know, but it's the first attempt to see if I can make something work that isn't conventional building. It's only going to last until the concrete goes off, so I'm going to try it, see if I think it's strong enough, and we'll go from there. That's the tape put around the top, all the way around the circle. Is it strong enough? I don't know. Does it feel like it might work? It feels like it might work. I'm going to continue with this idea because quite frankly I don't have the materials or other ideas, so we'll keep going with this, see if it works. Once I've got the plastic in and then the rebar, it'll be ready for pouring the concrete. At that point I'll assess, and we'll have a committee meeting like we usually do and see what we think. I have a feeling it's going to be, let's see what happens and give it a go. And that's the fully lined front and sides. The back bit I'm going to do as we do the concreting, because it's not very high, so it doesn't need that much setup, and I think it'll be in the way if I do it now. But I've lined the front 3/4 with plastic. You can see the mud brick and have some concrete blocks supporting it on the outside. Now, more than that I don't think I can do at this stage. I've got to cut the rebar to put it in place, but once that's done, it's just then time to pour the concrete. Rebar is now in place. It doesn't quite go all the way up to the edges, but it's not supposed to. It's just in there to obviously bind the concrete top together. So our next job is to set up our work area, which will be out here right next to it. Obviously there's no point trying to carry concrete around. Yep, I'll get set up, move the bits in place, then be teamwork, all hands to the pump, concrete morning. Here's our concrete pad. It's now dry. I've taken the blocks off, but I haven't taken the mud brick away yet. We may leave those there for a while, we don't know. We're still deciding. The edges will be kind of landscaped, but that's basically Lynn designing and me doing the physical work. And we're just waiting for our pool to arrive, and then it can go on the surface. It's not totally flat, but it's flat enough, and it certainly is level enough so that the pool won't try and disappear down the hill. So we'll leave this here until we've got the pool. While we're waiting for the swimming pool area to set up to put the pool on, which is on order, we haven't got it yet, but it's on its way, I now turn my attention to the summer kitchen. Now this is just a dry fit of the corner that we're doing, with the various cuts we've got to make in the breeze block to give ourselves a solid, strong corner in the right position at the right height. Now, as I may have mentioned, I've never done this sort of work before, so anything could happen. I'm hoping it goes remarkably well, but we'll see. First thing I need to do, I think, is cut the blocks that need cutting to size, so that I've got everything I need here in one place. Then I can mix up some mortar, give it a go. I'm now ready to mark these blocks up for cutting. This one will be a 3/4 by 1/4 block. Both bits will get used in the wall, but I have to mark it, draw the lines and then cut it. The easiest way I found is with a Sharpie and a pen, like so. Not like that. And then just join the dots up. That gives me a guide to cut to, and that should make the job easier. So that's the first course of blockwork laid, the mortar is hardened and it's solid. We've also checked the levels and everything appears to be level within a couple of mil, which is pretty good really, considering I don't know what I'm doing. I've got to put on the next 3 courses, which we'll do next week, and then that will lead us on to actually preparing our work surface. But for now, we're going to leave it there.
Yes, despite getting up really early and all 3 of us starting, we thought we'd finish it maybe by 11, but we didn't. It was a long day Monday, wasn't it?
Yes, I think I finished the clean-up by about 2:30.
Yeah.
By which point I was melting.
I think we were all melting. It was definitely a day for relaxation on Tuesday.
It was,
we
yes.
all felt a bit done in.
So we had a day off on Tuesday, which also coincided with the pup's birthday.
Yes, they were 2 years old.
So happy birthday to all the pups out there.
Yes, especially Dexter and Benny.
Oh yes.
We still get regular pup dates from.
We do indeed. Although I suppose they're proper dogs now.
Yeah, proper dogs. They've
Proper dogs.
gone through their adolescence, I believe. They should start calming down now, Teresa.
We're promising nothing.
Hamish has.
He has, yeah.
Hamish is calmer.
So yes, that was Tuesday. The other thing we've had going on this week, well, a couple of things we've had, but one of them was because of the constant hot weather, I decided to get the aircon sorted in the car. We've only had the car for 3 years, so it's about time I did it. So I took it into Targovisti, went and saw the person who does stuff on my car in Targovisti, and they tested it, put it on the machine, and after 20 minutes said, no, can't do it.
Yeah.
So it's good in a way that I didn't spend the last 3 years driving around in a hot car when I didn't need to, but it means I haven't got aircon in the car. So.
Yeah, I don't know if we're going to look at repairing it. Probably not. But it has led us to reevaluate our shopping times.
It has, yes. Rather than going at midday when the sun is at its hottest and coming out and sitting in an oven, we're now going either very, very early in the morning or very, very late in the evening.
Yes, and it's mainly for the pet food supplies
Yeah.
that runs that we go into Targovisti, isn't it?
But yes, we went on, I think it was Tuesday, Wednesday, whichever day it was we went. We went in the evening, got in the car and it was almost pleasant.
Yes, it was much better. So
yeah.
we'll stick to that for the rest of the summer.
Definitely.
They say necessity is the mother of invention, don't they?
They do. We've been adjusting our schedule. I've been getting up early to do the work because it's so hot. So we're adjusting all sorts of things.
Poor old Adam.
Don't know where I am.
He's not good with adjustment.
No. Something else we've done this week is we've finished off pickling the walnuts. Well, we haven't pickled them yet, but we finished off the process of preparing them for pickling. Have a look at this. It's now been 2 weeks that we've had the walnuts soaking in brine. We soaked them for the first week, changed the brine, soaked them for the second. It's now time to take them out and dry them before we pickle them. So we'll just have a look and see what they're like before we do the next stage. You can see how dark the brine is. Well, the walnuts now have got a kind of a khaki brown sort of colour. The tops and bottoms where they were cut and the pin pricks where we used the fork to make the holes, they're completely black. But that's how they should be looking. There's an interesting smell, which is the stuff that's been drawn out of the walnuts. I wouldn't say it was nice, because it isn't. But it's nothing to worry about. They're supposed to smell a bit funky at this stage, and they do. And we carefully just pour the liquid into the colander. Now you don't want to get this on you. As I may have mentioned previously, this will stain, but we'll pour them into there and just let them drain for a moment. The walnuts are now ready to go on the tray to be air dried for a couple of days. I've put an extra little step in, which is this cardboard box lined with kitchen roll, which will hopefully absorb some of the staining liquid, which is the brine, which they may still be on them before I put them onto the tray. Now Lynn's given me permission to use this tray, on the understanding if it gets ruined then I just have to buy a new one. So we'll see how that goes. But first off, I'll take my walnuts and just pop them straight in there. You can already see that Some of the brine has come off onto the kitchen roll. We'll leave that there for a moment while I tidy up the mess I've just made, and then move on to the next stage. Now they've had a couple of minutes sat on the kitchen roll. I'll move them about a little bit like that just to get as much off as I can before putting them onto the tray. Now that's what we've taken off. Now that's one of the reasons for using the kitchen roll. It's absorbed some of the mess, and now we can spread these out on the tray ready to dry. What I'll do is I'll cover them with kitchen roll, put them in an airy room, probably a spare room on the side, leave them for 2 days, and then we'll come back to them. Well, that's been 2 days that we've been air drying the walnuts. You can see some of the staining coming through the paper towel we covered them with. Let's move this out of the way and see what we've got. Well, that's what they look like. They're quite soft to the touch. They're dry, as you can see. There's no staining on my hands just from picking them up. Can't really smell anything on them either, so the smell was the liquid that was taken off of them and not the walnuts themselves, so that's good as well. The next thing we have to do is make up the pickling solution, put them in jars and pickle them. We're going to be splitting the walnuts into 2 batches. The first batch is going to have just a basic pickling solution, which is literally malt vinegar and sugar. Now these two get mixed together, heated up and put in a jar. I'll show you how, and then we'll move on to the more complicated one. To make up the amount of pickling solution that we need, we're using 250 millilitres of malt vinegar and 25 grams of sugar. We mix those together, heat them up, dissolve the sugar, and then it's ready for use. Well, we've moved out onto the porch for obvious reasons. I'm about to heat vinegar and I don't want the whole house smelling of it. But what we do is we add the 250 millilitres of malt vinegar along with the 25 grams of sugar, and then we heat it. Now we bring it to the boil, we stir it, we dissolve the sugar, and once the sugar's dissolved, we put it aside for it to cool down so that we can then put it into the jars. So for now, I'll just heat this up and stir it. Well, the sugar now has all dissolved. The vinegar, you can see steam coming off the vinegar. Well, you may not be able to see, but there is. I now know why I'm doing this out here, because all I can smell is vinegar. So what I'm going to do is, you can see bubbles along the bottom there. I'll just let that finish boiling, then I'll turn off the heat, put the lid on and let it cool down. The next step is to put the walnuts in the jar. So we just fill up the jar with as many as we can get in there. Like I say, we're doing 2 batches. We're doing this, the simple solution, and then we'll be doing one that's a bit more complicated with more spices and a bit more variety. But what we have to do is get as many of these into the jar as we can. Let's go for a smaller one, maybe one more. Just see if we can move those about. Now the jar has been sanitised. I've used my brewing sanitizer again. Let's take that one out because it doesn't seem to want to play. Let's see if I can find a small one. There we go. I can just fit him in there. That's it, perfect. That's now ready for us to put the vinegar solution over it once it's cool enough. We need it to get down to around about blood temperature, 40 degrees ish, so we can put it in there, seal it up, and then as it cools it will form a vacuum which will seal the jar. Our vinegar solution has now cooled down to around about 40 degrees centigrade. What we do is now just simply pour it in. Okay, we need slightly more, which what I'll do is basically top it up with more vinegar. It's literally just a splash. we're aiming to cover the walnuts so they all pickle properly. So I'll cover it up like that. Put on the lid. Give it a shake. And that can now go down into the cellar to sit on the shelf for a minimum of a month, but the longer I can leave it the better. Now that we've done that, let's move on to the more complicated pickling syrup. It's now time to make the pickling syrup for this second batch of walnuts. We're going to actually use 62 grams of muscovado sugar and 162 grams of soft brown sugar. I've mixed them all together. They go into this pan. We then need a stick of cinnamon, which I've broken up into bits so that I can distribute it between both jars, give them both a bit of flavour. We've made up some pickling, it's a kind of a pickling spice mix. I'll put the recipe for this down in the description, but we need 1 teaspoon of that, which is approximately there. In it goes. And we're using 250 millilitres of apple cider vinegar or apple vinegar. They all go in there together. Now, similar to the last one, except this one we're not going to boil. We're just going to heat it to help dissolve the sugar, infuse the spices a little, let it cool down, and then I'll do exactly as I did with the last batch of walnuts, which was basically just top the jars up, seal them up and pop them in the cellar. Now, you don't need to see me doing that part because you've already seen it. So if you're following along, this is the final step. Good luck, and if you make them, let us know how they turned out.
Yes, we're going to store them down in our cellar, but anywhere that keeps a constant-ish below 21 degrees centigrade temperature is fine.
Which is the purpose of the cellars.
Yeah. So if you've got them, that'll be okay.
Yeah. If you haven't, just find somewhere cool.
Yeah, cool and dark.
Back of a kitchen cupboard, that sort of thing. Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this week coming up, there are various events. Tomorrow is Palomar Trading Day. As always, the last Saturday of the month.
Yeah, I think it starts about 10ish, 10:30.
Yeah. We probably won't be this year because we're waiting for delivery.
This week.
Yeah. It's at Paul.
It may come today, it may come tomorrow.
We'll see.
If it doesn't come today, we won't be going to Palomar's.
No, we're desperate for our board to be on the pad. And then, of course, 1st of July morning, gather with people in your area and watch the sunrise.
Yeah, we might go to the beach, we're not sure yet.
We don't know yet.
We haven't made our minds up.
Still making plans.
Still making plans.
Which often change, as you know.
Very often change.
But you'll find out next week what we've done.
Yeah. So I think that's about it for us this week.
Yes, so just leaves us to say,
stay safe.
Be well.
Do skoro.
Do skoro.
So I do think that's probably about it for us this week.
Yeah, I think so. Just leaves us to say,
stay safe.
Be well. Really? Really?
Yeah.
Do skoro.
Okay.
Oh, I thought, oh, she's got this, she's on it. And you're like,
where from?
The beginning.
What?
That's about it for us this week, isn't it?
Okay.
From about there.
Yeah. Are you saying that or
No, you are.
Okay.
Like we did last time.
Okay.
Except we say all the words. Not just half of them.
Okay, I'm there, Adam. So you there?
She's somewhere.